Hi, intrepid viewers. Let me just turn my sound up a bit here for you. Is that better? Testing, testing. Hi, I'm Lena, sociologist from Australia, trying to make sense of the madness. Now, there's still 6 or 7 weeks to go, maybe 8, to the actual inauguration. So there's still time. And look, I think we're overdue for a miracle on this side of the fence, don't you? Like, please. I'll still never understand why the Biden-Harris team conceded instantly, but I think none of us will. So we won't dwell on that. Let's hope they're working like demons behind the scenes. Now, as the ever more ghastly appointments get announced, even people in the conservative branches of government are disturbed by these appointments. And we talked about them last video. Essentially, Trump, the patron saint of hemorrhoids, is doing it just to be provocative. He is such a low vibration reptilian creature, isn't he? So what I want to look at, amongst other things today, is why haven't there been any demonstrations? You guys can tell me in the comments too. Now, I understand people are burnt out. They're totally exhausted. And I don't think it's too big a word to say traumatized by the last 8, 9, 10 years. I get that. I haven't seen any demonstrations to speak of. So, in other words, how do Conservatives know Dems aren't happy? How do other Dems know Dems aren't happy? I mean, call me old school, and say, but where are the demonstrations? Hong Kong, people risk their lives on a daily basis for months. Those brave women and men who supported them in Iran, people are still having demonstrations. But there's like this defeatist vibe, and it's so important to counter that individually and collectively. So let's have a look. Maybe a better question is how to energize the resistance. Let's not go down the negative track. How to energize the resistance. Let's have a look at that. What will it take to get people out in the street in significant numbers? The Pussy Hats, 3 million women. They organised it in 5 days or something. It can be done. And we're still talking about it because it matters. Okay. People are ambivalent. Oh, that is very, very gorgeous. I'm going to pull another few cards here. Right. Now it makes more sense to me. So I'll hold these up as I go. Now, people are ambivalent, right, with this Two of Pentacles, but also feeling like you're on a really unsteady floor. And I think that sort of explains a lot, doesn't feeling like it can all go out from under you. So people clinging on. I think there was a lot of faith that Jack Smith's case would go forward, and people were waiting for that. But now he can't save America on his own. This is also the Magician card in the sense this is saying out loud, you have more power than you think you have. Ultimately, there are more sane people than not, and there's power in numbers, but it's also giving each other not just solace, but inspiration to keep going. At the moment, people are licking their wounds. I'm sure you can identify with all these cards. I think it is women who will come forward still with this Queen of Pentacles because this group is so radically affected by these policies, right? So I think women may regroup, got to get out of this state. This is the most practical queen. How many of you are coming? Who have you got extra to come? When are we organising? But it doesn't have to be just physical and on the street. It can be in all sorts of formats. But she's important symbolically. What's at stake? Well, the experiment in democracy that was the United States idea of bring me your huddled masses. The dream is at stake. It's being threatened by the Yeti, who always gets the emperor on his stone throne, backed by Elon, King of Wands, and people aren't sure. They're just not sure going forward. But remember with this Two of Swords, the key is in the water. If you can tap into the feminine energies and principles here, and then go forward with the symbolic swords of justice and truth, that is the ideal combination. So this to me would be saying affirmations every day for handling the stress and the pressure you're under. And I might get to talk a little bit more about that at the end. So I think that gives us a sort of clue, but please let me know in the comments. Excuse me, because this next 7 or 8 weeks are critical, even if the worst goes ahead, to know there are millions and millions of Americans who are unhappy with this. Maga does grievance, and the Dems just, oh, this is really bad. Do not let this energy paralyze you. That is so important. That's what they want. Docile serfs. That's not you. It's not you. So make a plan. Good. Now, the education department, as an educator myself, I'm horrified daily by what I'm reading. And I don't know any other first world country that dismantles its national education board because they set the tone of the curriculum. And in Australia, for example, the states all have state education. Our education is delivered from kindergarten to university by the states. That in itself is not mysterious, but the funding is federal. And all the states have to meet a certain minimum standard. I think that's not an uncommon thing, but this is not that. This is just taking the feds away and feeding small children into the jaws of this delirium. You know, it's willfully keeping the population ignorant. It starts in Louisiana trying to get the 10 Commandments up on every wall. But that's not where it ends because there are no dinosaurs, there is no evolution, there is no science, and then the country runs down and becomes poorer and more impoverished in every way. So this tampering with the education, where are the parents and grandparents of Americans protesting this? That would be a topic I think would bring a lot of people from across the divide together. Okay. Now, will parents start suing? We'll just have a quick look at that. Can't remember if I asked this last time. Will parents sue? If I was a parent or grandparent, even in a red state, I would want them to get an education. So outside of Betsy DeVos and Sunday school, they want to turn schools into Sunday schools. So, will parents protest? Okay. I think they won't be able to get away with everything. This is the Six of Pentacles. A compromise will be reached on some things, but only in some states and not others because it will be divorced from federal oversight. But there will be some compromises. Parents aren't happy. There could well be a rallying call about this issue, I'm pleased to see. This is my Happy Fake Families Republican card. They're basking in the sun as we speak, but I don't think that's going to last. I'm going to hope here that this will wake parents up, wake communities up, right? I'm sure teachers will start coming forward as if things weren't hard enough if you were a teacher before all this, you know. So actually being told you cannot, it started with critical race theory and ends with science, like, no, you can't teach that. No, you can't talk about it. It's shocking. The schools will be turned into like madrasas to just churn out little Christian soldiers. Speaking of soldiers, what was this quote? Oh, Musk has sat down with Ramaswamy and they've come up with fabulous ideas of how to gut the federal government in terms of workers. And they said they want to decimate the public service and just have a team of government crusaders. Note the term. Don't tell me either of these men are religious. Army of crusaders. This is the language. This is the language. Now, awesome idea because they want to be fair. Okay, so undermining the government, but they want to be fair. They haven't decided this yet, but what's being talked about is if you're a federal worker, you could be sacked according to your social security number, right? So this week, it's any even number. You go. It's like conscription in reverse. And they're saying this is the most fair. Notice how they have to put an overlay of reasonable on top of manic destruction. It's scandalous in the extreme. Okay. Now, there's Trump voters in various, and the penny's starting to drop. I didn't know it'd affect me. Okay. It's like that meme going around. I didn't think the leopard would eat my face. I love that. It's a bit long, a bit awkward, but I love it. I didn't think the leopard would eat my face, is what it's about. Now, America, you could argue, I could give you an 8-day rundown sociologically why this is happening, but I'll spare you that. I think the quick way to get to what I want to say is it's the individualism and the materialism has got the US into this state, and in the sense that everyone buys their own everything and not caring if someone else is starving down the road or at your gate. I'm being facetious here, but you get my point. The individual over the collective. And it comes back to a particular author, Ayn Rand, and remember, not Rand Paul, who was the other Paul that he retired early in the Trump administration. Anyway, he got all his staff to read Rand Paul. And her whole thing is the economy, and everyone has to pull their own weight. And it doesn't matter If you've got a broken back from an industrial injury, too bad. You're no longer an effective worker. We don't live in an economy. We live in a society. And the more Americans, i.e. you guys, who can reclaim the collective, you will, if nothing else, be in a much stronger space than you are if you try to battle this on your own. Do not try and do that. It's too much. It's simply too much. So make sure you're engaging, whether it's physically in your local community or online. And I'll just tell you a quick story about Greece and the barter system. And I think bring back barter. Now, when I was in Greece in 2007, the economy had virtually collapsed. They were at war with the EU, they'd lost their own currency. At the same time, things were very dire. And I noticed what had happened was people would share their skill set. So if I was a hairdresser and you were a mechanic, you would keep my car on the road during the year, and I couldn't pay you, you would do that. But when your sister got married and you needed 30 people to have their makeup and hair done, I would do that for you and not charge you. These skills don't have to exactly match. It's just things you need in life. So bring back the barter system and also collective shopping. It's economy of scale. It can save you money. So let me know if you're already doing versions of these things. All right. Now, let's have a look at the Texas Maga judge who just ruled out overtime for 4 million people. Right? Now, Biden had fought very hard to get this piece of paper on the table that people should be paid overtime for working overtime. There's a clue. There's a connection. I couldn't believe working conditions when I did work in the US. You guys do work obscene hours. Australia has tended to follow the US in other ways, and our conditions are not as good as they used to be. No. However, the point is, it's really, really important for overtime to be recognised and paid. And this judge has gone, no. Okay. So they'll probably sell it. You're not going to get taxed on overtime because you're not going to be earning overtime. So will the workers rise up? I don't think so. I would love to be surprised. Will we see some old-fashioned strikes about overtime or not? Not optimistic. Let's see. Will there be blue-collar strikes? Outside of the big unions like automotive, you rarely see them. Will workers start to organise? Let's have a look. Oh, okay. Not too bad. I don't think it's suddenly going to be massive strikes because the American workforce is already enculturated not to strike very much. So it's coming from a low base. And that's because employers punish people who go on strike. People can't afford to lose their jobs. Therefore, they put up with bad conditions. Therefore, conditions get worse because the bosses can get away with it. And so you have modern capitalism. And this is not just the US. This is everywhere. And a scared workforce, i.e. a workforce that's afraid of losing their job, becomes a docile workforce. But I'm asking here, just in the US economy, talking about it, the little birds are talking about it. This is online. Okay. Government restrictions on what you can earn, who pays you, what they are liable for, what they're not liable for, etc. Here's an alliance. So this might be something like, I'll just put it out there. It could be combined industries like hospitality and transport, or something. A combination can make a strike stronger. I'm not seeing a general strike here, but I am seeing alliances. They're talking. And the sword of truth may yet manifest. So I'm going to roll this forward quite arbitrarily, maybe a year from now. People are going to have all these conditions thrown at them. Things will, people will absorb the shock to some extent, and then we might see something. I just heard Bernie. Oh, okay. The biggest mistake the Dems made, I would argue, was stifling Bernie. He was considered too radical. Imagine that. Universal health care and people being paid a living wage. How radical was this man? They couldn't cope. They were too busy being centrist. You won't be able to tell us apart from the Conservatives on the economy. Right? Big divide on social issues, but on the economy, nah. Let's just have a quick look at Bernie. And I think this is what Bernie had to say and the way he said it. Let's have a look. Will a more radical agenda come through under this next administration? Will it be so bad that people will rethink the fundamentals? Bernie and his legacy. Dear Bernie. Well, I think there's certainly a chance. Certainly a chance. This is my Kamala card, Queen of Wands. Now, she's disappeared now. Kamala, you should be out there more, love. But anyway, she's regrouping to fight another day here. At least we hope so. The news is not going to be good for people as they hear they're going to be given less and less in terms of working conditions and healthcare. These are laws from on high. And I think you've got a new generation coming through. So the millennials just knuckled down and they took these terrible working conditions for granted. That's just work. They didn't know what their old lefty parents and grandparents were talking about. That's just how work is. But the next gen, down to Z and so on, are going, actually, I want a life. I want a life. I work 60, 80 hours a week and I expect a return from that. So expectations have to change before momentum follows. So there's a glimmer there. So Nikki Haley's come out. She's one of those people, Nikki Haley, depending on the topic, if she's on your side for something, awesome. If she's not, she's a nightmare, you know. Anyway, she came out criticising RFK for health and Tulsi Gabbard for national security. So I just have the figures here. The health budget is 25% of the total budget. 5%. And this guy who has upfront addiction issues, a worm-eaten brain, extols the virtues of eating roadkill, at best, a nutter, at best, right? And Tulsi Gabbard, she was the one who went and sat down with Assad of Syria after the Syrian people had been chemically bombed. But he said he didn't do it. So that's awesome. So Tulsi's really well equipped for this job. I mean, these appointments, these appointments. Okay, so we're going to get back to you now. Advice I'm going to say for this week. It's a week at a time now, if not a day at a time, isn't it? It's like being in AA or something. I'll get on to you. There was something else I wanted to mention. Oh, speaking of Bernie, the number of people who have come out and been interviewed and said, I just wanted to get rid of Obamacare, not the Affordable Care Act. Well, they're going to find out. Unfortunately, a lot of you will be impacted too, but they're going to find out. I mean, really. So the Dems should be out there every day of the week, all the first and second tier Dems saying, you are now going to lose the cap on insulin. Won't be $30 a month anymore. You are going to lose that program for your disabled child. You are going to lose X, Y, and Z. Say it. Didn't say it through the whole campaign. Say it now so they can make the connection, because obviously they can't get there on their own. So tell us what you really think, Lee. So let me shrug that off. Let's have advice for you guys for the next week. Week at a time. Here we go. Oh, 4 cards just fell out in a clunk. I think that has to go down to just bad shuffling. You guys. The community's running hot on this channel. I'm so thrilled to see you guys talking to each other. It is so important. Now, oh, and then I have to talk about Hawaii. Okay, let's have a look for you guys. Oh, very good. Now, this is very sound advice. Okay, traditionally, this is the card of walking away, but I think it's more a case of rising above it than walking away. All the cups emotional work, you leave them standing and distance yourself from the craziness, consuming less news and doing things on your own terms. This card is about doing it on your own terms. So, like I said, the image is better. Think of the sky rising above the chaos and the madness here, because there's going to be more of it, you can imagine. So you have to shock-proof yourself. At the same time, this is asking, have I done enough? Can I do more? And the answer to that is usually, we could all do some more than we're doing. So find your little niche in the struggle, right? What's your niche? What's your passion? How can you help in the resistance? That is where the rewards come. So just by aligning yourself with like-minded people, just as Maga fed on itself, it's time for the other side, active Dems, to feed and nourish each other. And by sharing ideas, people might say, okay, I can do that at my school board, and we're going to coordinate it with 12 other school boards, power and number, or whatever your issue is. Now, about the retreat in Hawaii. We're still talking and ironing out the details, because if you heard the video where I talked about it, it was when I was asked to be part of this team doing workshops in Hawaii, we were all thinking, March, Kamala will be in, it'll be fabulous to have a retreat and all the yummy things. Now, of course, it has a different complexion, and I think even more important than ever to realign, build yourself up, and be ready for this next time. But the thing, it is an expensive thing to do because it costs a lot to stay at the outrigger, basically for 6 nights or a week and 6 workshops. So what we're trying to do now is come up with a price for the actual workshops, and you could possibly go and find cheaper accommodation in Waikiki and do it that way. So we're working on it, and I'll tell you more about it as it unfolds. So keep an eye on Jen Bushman's channel, and she has, if you go to her channel, Hawaii Retreat. So check it out. We'll talk about it some more and try and make a more affordable option for you. So guys, take care, support each other, and I'll catch you real soon. Bye for now.